Hi traders, this lesson is going to be a little bit weird, for lack of a better word. We're going to be looking at Quandl data and how we can access this data in our scripts. Now, Quandl is basically a third-party data API source, like data feed. I'll just read a little bit of information from the official blog post that announced this new feature in PineScript back in April of 2020. It says here, the amount of information available on Quandl is staggering, and that's true. And a new Quandl function in Pine makes it even easier for Pine coders to design indicators and strategies using alternative data sets like avocado prices, Fed balance sheet data, blockchain data, and much more unique data from around the globe. So here is the syntax for it. It's a little bit different now that we have PineScript version 5. This was written back in 2020 when we had PineScript version 4. The way we access this info is a little bit different. We need to use the request library or namespace in front of this Quandl. But it's easy enough. I'll show you how this works in a moment. But first of all, let's jump over to the Quandl website and log in. I'm going to create an account. I'm going to log in and show you what we're dealing with here. So the website has changed since this blog post was written. You can still go to quandl.com, but you'll be redirected to data.nasdaq.com. So I'm guessing NASDAQ bought out Quandl, and now it's called NASDAQ Data Link. But it's still called Quandl. The function is still called Quandl in PineScript. Now, it's pretty confusing. I'm not going to spend the time to learn how to navigate this website proficiently because, quite frankly, I don't really care. This isn't the kind of data that I would use in my own trading. But I know some of you guys are quite interested in this sort of thing. And so the course wouldn't be complete without addressing the Quandl function. So here I am on the NASDAQ website. You can search for anything in this search box, any fundamental or world data. So supply chain stuff, sentiment stuff, interest rate stuff, economic fundamentals, avocado prices apparently. You can reference nearly everything that has a data set or a database of information linked to it that is reliable. NASDAQ are pretty picky with the data sets that they list, but the ones that are listed here are accurate. So we'll keep it simple today and let's just search Bitcoin and see what comes up. Now here are a bunch of results. All of these are premium. I'm not going to pay to access this data just because there is some free data here that we can use as an example. So for today's video, let's just look at blockchain divided by cost per transaction volume. So this ticker will get us the Bitcoin cost as a percentage of transaction volume. We could also get the average block size. Let's play around with these two for today's lesson. So I'm going to jump over to the Pine editor. I'm on the Bitcoin chart here, and let's create a new variable called Q for Quandl. Now, the way we access the Quandl function is we need to use the request library, the inbuilt request library, control space, Q for Quandl, and here it is. So if I click on that, open up some parentheses, we have a few parameters to work with here. The first one is your ticker. So we could put anything in here. I'm just going to paste in the Bitcoin cost percentage of transaction volume. Get rid of those spaces. You can't have spaces in a ticker. And comma. The next parameter is gaps, what we want to do with any gaps in our data. I'm going to set bar merge.gaps off. And then we have index. So there are multiple series that we can reference in Quandl. This index will tell PineScript which series from this data set that you want to access. For now, I'm just going to leave this as 0 to access the base data from this series. I don't think that this particular series that we're referencing has more than one option to choose from anyway. So that's all I need to put in here. You can put in ignore invalid symbol if you want to and override that. That will just make sure that the script will still run on a market where whatever ticket data you're retrieving doesn't exist. For now, I don't really care about that, so I will leave that parameter alone. And let's plot Q to our chart, our big blockchain cost per transaction volume. Save the script. Because I've specified the parameter names of these two parameters, I need to do the same thing here. So index equals 0, save the script. Now that should compile fine. There we go. And here we have it. So you can see the cost per transaction percentage fluctuating here on Bitcoin. We're on the daily chart. If I'm guessing this data is daily. If we drop down to a 4-hour time frame, yeah, you can see we have these gaps in data in between each day. So the lower the time frame, the more pronounced these gaps will be. If you want to merge these gaps, you can set bar merge.gaps on, and then you'll get a smooth line drawing here, as PineScript will average out the difference between these lines, or our plot function will join those lines. Let me turn that off for now. And let's have a look at a different data feed here. Let's copy over the average blockchain size, or block size. Save this, zoom out a bit. Let's jump back to the daily. And here we have our average block size oscillating on our chart. Pretty simple, very interesting. And obviously there's a heck of a lot of data you can access on the Quandl website, on the NASDAQ data website. I'll leave that for you to explore in your own time if you're interested in this. We can record more lessons on this Quandl function in the future if there's enough demand for it, but quite frankly, I've never had anyone ask me about this function. But if you're interested in it, this is how you use it. But before we wrap it up, let's have a look at one other different type of data set. We just looked at a couple of options for a Bitcoin data feed. Let's try plotting the effective federal funds rate onto our chart. So for this, I need to copy our little ticker ID here, jump over to the Pine editor and paste that ticker in here. Let's save the code and see what this data looks like on our charts. There we go. That is the effective federal fund rate drawing onto our charts. And that is how you use Quandl, at least how you request data. Now, there's a hell of a lot of data here to choose from, especially if you sign up and pay for the premium data feeds. For example, there's some interesting ones here. There's a lot of interesting sentiment data feeds, like this one here, Retail Trading Activity Tracker, which gives a daily view into retail activity and sentiment for over 9,500 US traded stocks. So I'll leave this with you guys to play around with. You've got all these filters here, and all these different asset classes, data types, regions, different publishers. There's a wealth of data here that you could get quite creative with if you're so inclined, and you could create some interesting strategies and indicators using this information. Anyway, I'll leave this lesson here, and I'll speak with you in the next one.